This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder of Mosley Wealth Management. What's on your mind this week, Southern California? The stock market, taxes, inflation, income, Social Security, how to ease into retirement? Let's get your financial questions answered right now and right on the money.
In retirement, a lot of people have built a great lump sum. We call that your lumber yard, but you need a blueprint to put that lumber yard into a plan that you can build a retirement house to live in.
Having spent 19 years in the ministry, Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management today serves you with conservative financial strategies designed to protect your assets and provide you the potential for wealth accumulation, and has been doing so for over 25 years.
Our mission at Mosley Wealth Management is to help people make sure they never run out of income the rest of their life and they pay as little as they're legally required to pay in taxes.
This is your Right on the Money radio hour, and here is Tom Mosley.
And a very happy weekend to you. You are listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management based right here in Southern California, and I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. Each week, we are committed to providing you with retirement planning solutions. And Tom, I am so excited to have the conversation we're going to have together today. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking. And all of you who are out there, we hope you're doing well. Thanks for listening to us today.
Yes, we so appreciate. We know so many of you are tuning in week after week. We love you. We are so glad that you're here, and we're excited to have you join us again this weekend. Well, Tom, we love to talk about taxes on this show, specifically because we want all of you to pay the least amount to the IRS that you are legally required to pay. And several months ago, we did a show specifically on the topic of Roth conversions, and the response was off the hook. You received so many phone calls, so many people came in wanting to figure out how they could enact this strategy for themselves. So we decided we should do another one, right?
Absolutely. You know, the biggest question I find about Roths is people come in and I tell them, I say, be careful kicking yourself so much because it's going to be hard for you to sit down, because they come in and they say, well, I wish I had Roth when I was 20 years old. And they're sitting there and they're 65 years old. And I'm happy to tell them that if you had Roth when you were 20 years old, you would have been about 20 years before they ever invented it. Mm-hmm. So, they only invented the Roth IRA like in the late 90s.
Yep.
And most of the people who are retiring right now are halfway toward retirement. They were halfway through their working career. So the thing that you need to really look at is don't cry over spilt milk. Milk is the old saying in the South where I grew up. Don't cry over what's already happened. What do we do about it now to get into the Roth? Is it best for us to get into a Roth? How do I convert into a Roth? Who should not convert into a Roth? And what are the big tax implications? That's the biggest thing, like you led off with there, Kristen. So those are the things that we're going to talk about on the show today. And I promise if you'll stay to the end today, I've got something to tell you that just last month, the IRS came out with. If you've got an inherited IRA, they've made a ruling on the law that they passed 5 years ago. So they finally made some clarification on the 𝗪 Act from way back in 2019. And you need to stay around and listen because it's real clear what the IRS now wants you to do. We got a great show.
We do, for sure. And if you're new to us or new to Tom, one of the things you want to know about him is that he is certified with 𝗪𝗪. Talk about the importance of that as it relates to today's conversation.
Well, when I ask people in my seminars if they have ever heard of 𝗪𝗪, usually about 20% of them have, but you might have seen Ed on TV. He does specials from time to time. He is a bald-headed, really neat guy. He's almost 70 years old, and he is a tax accountant and a CPA and a financial advisor from New York. And he formed a group about 20 years ago because of all of the issues with taxation of IRAs and 401ks and the difference and all the little gotchas that they have in the law. And Ed Slott founded a group, and at first they were elite advisors. And then if you've been with him long enough, like I have, I'm very proud to say that I am a master elite advisor with Ed Slott, because he's known as America's authority on IRAs and 401ks. So when it comes to taxation, if you want to save money, don't work with a broker who says, oh, we don't really get into that. We don't really do Roth conversions. We don't do tax harvesting. We don't do all of those things. Talk to your CPA. That's a financial planner's model right there that you need to follow. So you better be working with somebody who's going to help you save money on taxes. And nobody in America is as good with taxes and teaching advisors and CPAs how to work with taxes on IRAs. If you're a financial planner, you need to associate with Ed Slott. And if you don't associate with a financial planner that's associated with Ed Slott, you're probably missing out.
And that's why I'm so grateful, Tom. You have so much wealth of knowledge and experience, having been doing this for almost 30 years now, right?
No, it's just 29. I'm into my 30th year.
There we go. Want to make sure I got it right. No,
okay.
for sure not. But you've got that experience, but then you are always learning, always growing. And as a master elite advisor with Ed Slott, you stay up to date and on the pulse of all that the rule changes that happen, because they are numerous and they are constant. So I'm excited that you bring that wealth of knowledge into the conversation today as well. But let's start off for folks, just to give an overview. Let's talk about what is a Roth IRA, the difference between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA, and also Roth 401ks, because those are newer for a lot of folks, and some folks still have the option to contribute to those today.
The difference in a traditional IRA and a Roth is the taxation. Okay, an IRA, a traditional IRA, a traditional 401k, you do not pay tax on the money that goes into those now. And you defer tax. It grows without tax. But then when you get to retirement age, you get over 59 and a half is the prime time. You have to pay a penalty if you get out of those before 59 and a half. But once you get over 59 and a half, you can withdraw money from a traditional IRA or a regular 401k. You can withdraw money from those, but when you withdraw money from those, you have to pay tax, and the tax is at regular income rates. A Roth IRA, on the opposite side of that from a taxation standpoint, is you pay the tax now before the money goes in. It goes into a Roth, or it goes into the Roth side of your 401k. You better wake up, because a lot more 401ks are beginning to offer Roths, okay? Because one reason the government loves them, because they get their money now, because you pay all of the tax on a Roth before it goes in. Then it goes into the Roth, and then you really know how much money you have. All of that money is yours, because the money that's in there has already been taxed. The growth does not get taxed. You do not have required minimum distributions at age 73 the way a regular and a traditional 401k and a traditional IRA are there. In the Roth, you can leave it in there as long as you want, and it grows tax-free, and it comes tax-free out. It comes tax-free without any requirement at age 73. Big difference. Taxation is the big difference between a regular and a Roth.
Absolutely. And I know you said at the beginning that folks shouldn't be crying over spilt milk, as the case might be, if they didn't have the option of having the Roth back in the day. So let's talk about Roth conversions, because even if you didn't have access to a Roth earlier on in your career or early on in your life, there's an option for you to convert to one, right, Tom?
You can take money from a regular IRA, and in some cases a regular 401k, and convert it to a Roth. Now, some people say, well, I'm too old. I don't have any earned income. You can start a Roth regardless of earned income. Now, the key is you can't contribute to a Roth, because a contribution comes from income that you've had in a particular year. So you're limited to certain amounts of money that can go into that. You can contribute if you've got income, but even if you're retired, you can start a Roth, and you can convert IRA money and 401k money that's never been taxed before, you can convert it over into a Roth by paying the tax. And yes, I'm advocating paying more tax than you normally, regularly should have to pay. Why would you want to do that? Because tax rates, because your tax rates, if I ask in a seminar, Kristen, if I have 30 people in a seminar and I say, how many of you think taxes are going to be higher in the future or lower? I've asked that for literally probably 10 years, okay? And I've never had anybody who legitimately thought tax rates were going to be lower in the future. They're always anticipating a higher tax rate. Well, if that's true, taxes are on sale right now.
Right.
So if taxes are on sale, and we know because of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that was passed in 2017, that taxes are lower in 2024. Everybody wake up if you're just starting to go to sleep on the show. Wake up, because taxes are lower in 2024 and 2025 than they will be in 2026, because that Tax Cuts and Jobs Act expires in 2026 and it's no longer valid, and all of the rates go back up. You know, the 12 goes back up to 15, 10 goes back up to 12, the 22 goes back up to 25, the 24 goes back up to 28. So we're going to have a 2 to 4% tax increase in 2026. Why not pay more tax now when it's lower, especially on something that's in an IRA or a 401k that forever will be taxed?
And the majority of Americans have the bulk of their wealth saved up in these tax-deferred accounts and are sitting on that ticking tax time bomb. And, you know, you've laughed before when I've said this, Tom, but basically if Congress does nothing, taxes are going to go up, right? They're set to sunset. They're set to expire. That's why now is the time to really be seriously thinking about Roth conversions, and could one be right for you?
And I laugh at you when you say that, because it's funny when somebody accuses Congress of doing nothing.
I know.
Okay?
How dare
Because I know. It seems normal. Hey, listen, we're going to get into this in this show, but here's what you need to realize. You just called it something very appropriate, Kristen. It is a tax ticking time bomb. It is amazing how much money you're going to pay in taxes on your 401k or your IRA. Do you know how much you're going to pay? That's something that when we go through the process, when you call in and you set up an appointment with one of our 6 all-star advisors in one of our 6 offices spread all over Southern California, we can do a tax report on your IRA and your 401k, and we can find out and show you how much you're going to pay in taxes if you just totally ignore the show and don't convert anything, and you just take it out according to the government's plan. You need to know.
You need to know for you. And so again, we invite you to pick up the phone and call 888-930-5609 to schedule your time to come in and receive your customized, personalized retirement blueprint from Tom and the team of Mosley Wealth Management. It costs you nothing. We know that you have questions specifically about how you can mitigate your tax liability in retirement. Today's the day for you to find out. 888-930-5609. When we come back, we're going to be answering the questions: why should you do a Roth conversion, how to do a Roth conversion, and who shouldn't do one as well. Stay with us. We'll be back after this. Do you know how you'll generate income from your investments along with your Social Security in retirement? In our opinion, it's never too early to start the income planning process for your future. An income plan can help you work towards creating a steady stream of income to support you throughout your retirement years. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Take control today and start income planning for your retirement. Call the team at Mosley Wealth Management so we can help you design a complimentary written income plan to help you live the retirement you've always wanted. Call 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
For your own no-cost retirement blueprint, call Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management, 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and today we are doing a deep dive all into Roth conversions. Tom, I want to really quickly help folks understand, because I think there is a common misconception out there. There are income limits when it comes to making contributions to a Roth. And so a lot of times folks might be listening to this idea of a Roth conversion and going, wait a second, I make too much. I'm not eligible. Let's help folks understand that the contributions and the conversions are two separate things.
Yeah, the contributions to a Roth, you do have certain income limits. For a single person, it's around $125,000. You start getting impacted by it, maybe a little bit more. And for a married couple, it's a little over 200,000, and then it phases out where they say you cannot do a Roth.
And
Well,
that's just for an individual Roth IRA, not for a Roth 401k, correct?
that's right. In a Roth 401k, you can do whatever you want to in there. You just have to pay the tax this year or the year that you're putting the money in. But in a regular IRA, you can do a Roth. It's called a backdoor Roth in almost all cases. There's sometimes, and this is where we have to sit down with you and look at your particular situation, but you may be eligible for a Roth and not even know about it because you can do what's called a backdoor Roth. So that's one thing that if you think, well, I make too much money to do a Roth, I wish I could, you need to be working with somebody who makes your wishes come true, because you could do a backdoor Roth in most cases.
Well, and this is why it's really important to look at your individual personal situation, and it's not a one size fits all situation or strategy, right?
Yeah, we start with a blank piece of paper because every single person is different. And in my Social Security workshops, it's easy to say every one of you have a different Social Security number. And every one of you has a different time when you should turn on your Social Security. When it comes to taxes, every one of you is different as well. And your situation and the options that you have in your particular situation, if you're married, you multiply that times 2, because there are options married people have that single people don't have in some cases. So your situation is different, and that's why we always start with a blank piece of paper when we're working with you to build a retirement blueprint for you.
So again, let's now move on and talk about why should someone do a Roth conversion? I mean, on the outset, Tom, you've already laid the groundwork and helped folks understand in the first segment why this is often the right strategy and a good thing for folks to do. But there's some other reasons that may not be as obvious. So let's dive into those.
Well, let me just list some of them, okay? In an IRA or a regular 401k, you're forever taxed for any money that's in there. Every year, once you turn required minimum distribution age, which right now is 73, every single year, you are forever taxed on some portion of that money, whether you need it or not, forever. In the Roth IRA side or the Roth 401k side, you're never taxed. I would much rather be never taxed than forever taxed. Why? Because the tax has already been paid on the Roth. So therefore, it's going to grow tax-free as well. So you get tax-free growth. You get forever taxed with the IRA, never taxed with the Roth. You allow yourself to diversify from a taxation standpoint. You say, boy, that's a lot of big words. Let me explain what that means. When you get into retirement, you are not in a situation where it's advantageous to you that every lump sum of money, every 5,000 extra you need, every 10,000 extra you need for a vacation or a transmission or a refrigerator or a remodeling of the kitchen, you're not in an advantageous situation if every time you take money to do that, it raises your income. If you're taking it out of a regular IRA or a 401k, it's going to raise your regular income, possibly putting you into a higher tax bracket. If you are in a Roth, you're diversified, because if you do take money out of a Roth or an after-tax account of some other kind, you are not going to be raising your regular income. So tax diversification is another reason for you to consider a Roth. Let's talk about estate planning. And a lot of people think of estate planning as when you leave it to your children. Well, that's important. But, well, some people also say, well, I don't care if my kids have to pay tax on it. It's going to be a gift to them. What about your spouse? I mean, if you're sitting there with a large IRA and she or he has a large IRA, and one of you passes away, the spouse inherits the other IRA, but they've sometimes doubled the amount they have in an IRA. And guess what? Their tax bracket goes to single filer status the year after somebody passes away in a marriage. So you've put the same burden for drawing out money out of IRAs onto your surviving spouse, but now they are faced with a single tax filing bracket, and that can really drive up their income bracket when they have to take out the required distribution. So what we're talking about forever tax versus never taxed. We're talking about tax-free growth. We're talking about tax diversification. We're talking about estate planning, and all of that just takes a lot of the bonds and the chains and the bindings that are on you to where you don't have mandatory withdrawals. It allows you to be flexible. It allows you to operate in a tax way in retirement in a way that's advantageous to you. What's best for me this year? Am I making lower income? Maybe take it out of the regular. Am I making higher income? Maybe take it out of the Roth. You know, you've got flexibility and you're not forced into a corner and only one way to act. That's why you should consider the Roth conversion. One more big thing. If you do consider taxes will be higher in the future, then paying them now is going to be better than paying them in the future. That is a simple, straightforward approach. Pay now, if it's cheaper, is much better than paying in the future if it's more.
Absolutely. And so if you're sitting there going, you know what, maybe this has raised some questions, concerns you hadn't thought of before, you're wondering if you should do a Roth conversion, this is why we offer that complimentary retirement blueprint. So to claim yours and start that process, simply call 888-930-5609. Tom, let's move on now and talk about how to do a Roth conversion, because obviously this is newer to a lot of folks, but this is something that you do day in and day out for your clients.
You do it very carefully. Okay, let's just make sure we understand that. At the last Master Elite meeting that we had in Indianapolis back in May, 𝗪𝗀 was telling us about he got a phone call from a guy who was a do-it-yourselfer, and that's fine. A lot of you who listen to this show are do-it-yourselfers, and we try to educate. I've had some of you call me and say, I like your show because you're not just telling me, call me and I'll do it, call me and I'll do it, call me and I'll do it, but you're telling me and teaching me how to do certain things, and I'm learning about things so that I can do things myself. Well, you got to be really careful, really careful.
Yeah.
Ed was telling us about a guy who had a $2 million IRA. It was with a big company that started with a V that's really inexpensive, but you are a do-it-yourselfer if you're working with that company, and a lot of people are. And he got ready to do a Roth conversion, and he was going to do a smaller amount. He was going to harvest it out that we'll talk about later. And he was all primed and ready to do this, and he hit the wrong button, and he converted the entire $2 million. And to that point, he was going to pay massive amounts of taxes by doing it all in 1 year. So you have to be very careful the way you do it. And the IRS is pretty rock solid unforgiving, and they had been to that point. That's the reason Ed was getting a call and saying, can you help me with this, to back that out, to recharacterize that, to do it a different way. And so far, the IRS was stonewalling the guy. So you need to be really careful when you start to do a Roth conversion, because you're paying the taxes now and you're paying the taxes this year. So here's some things to consider. What's your tax bracket? Are you in the middle of your tax bracket? Or will converting more money push you into a higher tax bracket? You need to know that. Are you on Medicare? If so, converting a huge sum of money might cause you to pay more for your monthly Part B and Part D. It's a big word they call IRMAA tax, but it could make you pay more for your Part B and Part D. Did you sell something and have a big capital gains? Well, if you had a big capital gain in something and you had a lot of capital gains, by converting too much of your Roth in any 1 year, you could push yourself into the higher 20% capital gains bracket. And, you know, people sometimes say, what's the timing? The timing is not so important. You can do it anytime during the year. But here's the thing, do it over a number of years. Don't do it all like the gentleman accidentally did. He did it all in 1 year. That's going to cost the gentleman a whopping amount of tax. Don't do it all in 1 year. Harvest it out over a period of time. Really, really carefully. And how do you do this? This is why some of the big box firms just say, no, we don't want to have anything to do with Roth conversions, because it is a calculation that you need to make. Now, what we do at our place, we have a software. We run a tax return, a complete tax return through this software, and it'll show our clients, hey, if I convert this much, that's great to get all of that money into after-tax money into the Roth, but it's going to cause this to happen on my capital gains. It could cause this to happen on my IRMA, on my Medicare, and it could cause this to happen on my tax brackets. So if you make a decision in one edge of the pond, you need to know what the ripples are going to, how they're going to impact things on the other side of your financial pond. That's why you need help. You need somebody helping. That's why we run a tax report on people. That's why we run a Holista plan. It's what we call it. When people become our clients, we begin to do Roth conversions with them, and it all starts with this software called Holista plan. You need to work with a professional on this.
For sure. We always say, don't try it on your own without getting some advice and expertise. You don't want to inadvertently make a huge, costly mistake. So if you would like to come in and sit down and look at, could a Roth conversion be right for you and how to go about it in the most tax efficient manner possible, we invite you to call 888-930-5609 and schedule your time to come in for your very own complimentary retirement blueprint. We'll be back with more on Right on the Money with Tom Mosley right after this. Will you outlive your money? It's a scary thought, but it's a real concern for many people. In our opinion, that's why it's crucial to have a solid retirement plan in place. We believe that with proper planning, you can work towards making your money last as long as you do. Don't wait until it's too late to start thinking about your financial future. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management today to learn how we can help you create a retirement plan that can potentially help you obtain peace of mind and security for years to come. Don't let the fear of running out of money in retirement keep you up at night. Take control of your financial future today by calling 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Get your retirement right on the money with Tom Mosley. Call 888-930-5609 for your no-cost appointment. 888-930-5609.
Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management based right here in Southern California, and I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We're having a very in-depth conversation today all about Roth conversions. What are they? Should you do it? When is the best time to do it? We're going to get into why you should not do one potentially as well. But Tom, before we do that, I know that our listeners are always excited to hear how they can connect with you in person. So talk a little bit about the live events that you have going on.
We have live events all over Southern California. We're from Encino all the way down to Scripps Ranch with our live events. We're all the way out to Ontario, Rancho Cucamonga, all the way into the West LA area. To find all of those dates and times for all of our seminars and our workshops, you need to go to Mosley Wealth Management. And my last name is spelled Mosley. That's Mosley, wealthmanagement.com. And you can click on the seminar tab and find out where we're going to be live. We do ask that you let us know you're coming. We actually about every month or so, we run out of material because we have so many people come and they haven't let us know they were coming, and we prepare extra for every time, but sometimes we just have a lot of extras walk in. So let us know you're coming. And when you come, if you've been on the show, like recently I met Mike and Debbie, and they came up and they said, let's take a picture because we listen to you on the radio all the time, and we just like to have a picture of you. So I'm not that good looking, but if you want a picture, we'll do a picture, okay?
Aww.
And come up and meet us and let us know you listen to the show. Mike and Debbie did that recently in Cyprus. Now, and also, to find all of our past radio shows, our TV shows, and the weekly Ease into Retirement video podcast, that's on our YouTube channel. And you need to go to, again, to Mosley Wealth Management YouTube channel. And I mean, some of those we have 10, 12, 15,000 people watch those videos that we put out. Be sure when you get on YouTube to like it if you like it, subscribe if you want to it, if you want to be informed of future shows, and comment. Give us a comment, send us a question, and those are the questions that we answer in the last segment of many of our shows.
Absolutely. So many ways to connect. So we invite you again, visit the website, mosleywealthmanagement.com. That's MOSLEY wealthmanagement.com. Tom, I want to go back to something that you said in the previous segment just to clarify, because you were talking about how you will take someone's tax return and run it through this tax planning software. Can you explain in a little more detail what all goes into that? Because I know that you all are not CPAs. So obviously you're having to work with people, work in conjunction with their accountant. So talk a little bit about that process.
What we do is we take a tax return that's been filed. A lot of our clients, we do this for our clients, by the way, Kristen. And if you're working with us, we will run a Holistic plan for you. There's a lot of liability that's involved in making these decisions and making these recommendations. And so we want to make sure that it's somebody that's working with us as our client. And we'll take their tax return. And when we run it through this software program, it will tell us if we convert. For instance, do I want to convert 50,000 and harvest that out of my IRA and pay the tax on it and get it over into a Roth? That's the subject of the whole show. It will say, okay, yes, you can do that. This is what it'll do to your tax bracket. This is what it will do to your Medicare tax. This is what it will do to your capital gains tax. And then it also will say, but for instance, if you're in the 22% tax bracket, and it will push you to 24% tax bracket. Well, that's a huge tax bracket. It will also say, now, if you want to convert 200,000, it will keep you in the 24% tax bracket. This is a for instance, and this is what it'll do to your Medicare tax. This is what it will do to your capital gains tax, and this is what it will do to your tax bracket. So it lets you know if you pull certain levers, what's going to happen to the other levers, what's going to cause those things to be adjusted upward, because with taxes, unfortunately, it seems to always be adjusted upward. And a lot of times people say, well, no, I want to go ahead and do more because I know, for instance, 2026, we know taxes are going to go back up. In fact, let's look at the 22 to 24% tax bracket. So many people are saying right now, let's still go ahead and do the 24% tax bracket. Don't just stay to the 22% tax bracket, because in 2026, the 22% tax bracket is going higher than the 24. It's going to 25. So let me go ahead and harvest more and go ahead and pay the tax on more now and next year. So because in 2026, it's going to be higher even than the next up bracket if you're moving from 22 to 24.
And again, this is why this makes it such a time-sensitive conversation, and you want to figure out if it's right for you, how to do it, when to do it in the most efficient manner possible. But Tom, it's also important to understand that for some folks, it may not be the right strategy. So why should someone not do a Roth conversion potentially?
Let's first of all go back through what we just talked about and look at it from a let's not do it standpoint. Taxes are like sometimes Mexican food. You can only stomach what you can stomach. And like, I love Mexican food, and you just about any kind. I mean, I could eat it literally 3 meals a day, but there's some people and there's some places we go. My wife, for instance, she'll say, I can't eat that often, or I can't eat something, not Mexican food, because she loves Mexican food, but I can't have that food too often. I can't have bread too often. So taxes are the same way. So who should not do a Roth conversion? If it's going to really push you into a higher tax bracket and you can't stomach it, don't do it. You've got to really be careful. And if you're in the highest tax bracket already, and you're about to retire at, say, age 64 or 65 or 66 in a couple of years, then maybe wait till after you retire, and then what happens to your tax bracket? It normally goes down, and that becomes a prime time to continue or start doing Roth conversion. So you've got to consider, what's my income this year? What will it be next year? Whoops, I'm going to retire in 2 years. That's the prime time between the time you retire and right now 73 years of age, when they force you to take out required minimum distributions. That's the prime time. So your tax liability, how much are you making, your tax bracket. If you've got a kid in college and they're going to apply for financial aid, you've got to consider what it's going to do to FAFSA. That's FAFSA, and that's the financial aid organization. You've got to consider, other things. And here's another thing. We had a guy recently met us in Glendale, nice guy, had millions of dollars in a tax situation, and I recommended that he not do any Roth conversions. You say, why would you do that? Because this gentleman had no brothers and sisters that were still alive, no children, no nieces or nephews, no one in his family to leave that money to, millions of dollars, and he was going to leave it to several different charities, 501c3s. Well, I told him, and he almost was angry at me to start with. He said, no, I hear you talk about Roth conversions, and I want to do Roth conversions because I want to save tax. Well, that 501c3 that he was going to leave that money to doesn't pay tax. So they were going to get the full amount of whatever he leaves them when he passes away. And why diminish that by paying tax on it? Because that charity gets X amount of dollars from an IRA and they don't pay tax on it. They get X amount of dollars from a Roth IRA and they don't pay tax on it. So, what you're going to do with the money, how much you're making, all of those things could be reasons why you should not do Roth conversions.
And this is why it's not a one-size-fits-all strategy. There's no cookie-cutter approach. You take each person's situation, and you say this on the show a lot, Tom, but when you and the team build a retirement blueprint for someone, you start with a blank sheet of paper, and this is why.
Exactly. And then, there's some tax implications too of the Roth. And here's what I mean. You got to be really, really, really careful with your 401k no matter what. I recently had a guy came in and he was 54 years old and he'd moved all of his money out of his 401k into an IRA. And then he came in for me to start helping him. And he wanted to draw money out of his IRA. If you draw money out of your IRA before 59 and a half, we say often on this because it's one of the biggest mistakes, Kristen, that people make. If you draw money out of an IRA before 59 and a half, there's a 10% penalty. So there's also a little snafu here with Roth conversions. If you're under 59 and a half, you have to pay the tax from another source. In other words, if you're over 59 and a half, you can convert X amount, take the tax out of that X amount, so a smaller amount goes into the Roth, but you've paid the tax with the conversion. Right. If you're under 59 and a half, you can't do that. So there are tax implications. You got to be really careful.
For sure.
And then you need to do smaller amounts because you may push yourself into higher and higher tax brackets that might not be so appealing, as we said, to your stomach. And we've talked about the Medicare premiums and the Social Security tax implications. So you really need to make sure that the tax implications are considered. If you're going to decide to pay tax now rather than later, you need to know what the rules are now and how much you're going to have to pay. That would be my conclusion to talking about Roth conversions. Now, here's your situation. You're sitting on an IRA or a 401k out there that may be $800,000, $1 million, $1.2 million, and you don't have any idea how much tax you're going to have to pay on that. Number one, you need to know. We can show you that. Number two, you need to know how much you can save. We can show you that. Number three, you need to be working with somebody who addresses this. Those are real financial planners, not just advisors or investments. I get a kick out of all these companies that even call themselves blank investments. That's all they're concerned about, investments. They're not really concerned about a long-term plan. We're concerned about a long-term tax plan, and a Roth conversion might be for you.
Exactly right. And the only way you'll be able to know is to sit down in the financial planning environment to see if it could be right for you and what's the most tax efficient way to go about doing it. So again, that number to call to start your process and claim your complimentary retirement blueprint, 888-930-5609. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, it's that time of the week where we get to answer our listener questions. Stay with us. We might answer one of yours. We'll be back after this. Are you worried about taxes eating into your retirement savings? By engaging in savvy tax planning, you might be able to create greater tax efficiency in your retirement plan. At 𝗪𝗆 Wealth Management, our team of retirement planning specialists can help you explore tax-deferred and tax-free investment options, as well as strategies to help potentially minimize your tax burden in retirement. Don't let taxes derail your retirement plans. Let us help you create a tax-efficient financial plan and work towards maximizing your savings and minimizing your taxes. Call Tom Mosley of Right on the Money and 𝗪𝗆 Wealth Management today to learn more about our tax planning solutions. Call 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley of 𝗪𝗆 Wealth Management. Get your own no-cost complimentary retirement plan review. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and it's that time of the week where we get to answer listener questions. And today we have two very special questions that actually came in to Ed Slott as part of the Master Elite Advisor Group, which, Tom, you are a part of, and we're so proud of you for that, because this is a huge distinction and something that really sets you and the entire team of 𝗪𝗆 Wealth Management apart. So we know that a lot of you are listening out there. You might have some of these same questions. So we wanted to share a couple of these questions with all of you. One of the questions is, there's a client that wants to cash out his IRA and then roll it into a Roth IRA within 60 days. Can this be done directly, or does it have to be rolled back into an IRA first and then converted? Such a good question.
Well, you can do this. You can, what we're talking about here is, instead of a direct transfer, you're talking about a cash out of that IRA. Some of you are aware, and some of you have made mistakes on this, because you can take money out of an IRA, cash it out for 60 days. Now, a lot of times people use this, Kristen, when they're in a panic, and they have to have a certain amount of money, and they think, oh my goodness, I'll put it back in there within 60 days. And I'll guarantee you half the time or more, the money doesn't get put back in properly, or it doesn't get put back in within 60 days. And there's all kind of regulations to it. And there's some stipulations. You can only do that one time a year, and then you can't touch that money for another year. So there are a lot of problems with that. But in a straight up answer to this question, a Roth conversion can be done by a direct rollover, like we've talked about, or it can be done by this 60-day cash out rollover. However, not every custodian, like if you're working with Fidelity, if you're working with Charles Schwab, like we do, we work with both of those. If you're working with the old TD Ameritrade, that's not there anymore, that's Charles Schwab, but you're working with Vanguard, they may not allow you to do a conversion. In other words, you take it out of the IRA and you cash it out, you keep it for less than 60 days. And then what we're talking about is not putting it back into another IRA, but putting it back into a Roth then, which would mean you incur the taxes on it. Not all custodians allow you to do that because it's not a clear path. You've taken it out of one type form and you've put it back into another form. You've taken it out of a regular IRA and put it into a Roth. So here's just one of those situations where it might be something you can do, but you don't really want to do it because of the implication of it, because of the potential. It'll just blow up in your face sometime if you do that. So you can do it, but you need to be very, very careful. Any 60-day rollover, I've just seen them so many times, they just blow up on people. So
Mm.
be very careful when you do anything. When you cash that money out with the intent to put it back within 60 days, the clock is ticking, the
Mhm.
regulations are more, the specifications are more as to what you have to do and how you do it. So be very careful when you do a 60-day rollover. At our place, we don't do 60-day rollovers unless it's something that we have had clients who come to us and they've called us up and they say, Tom, we're in a mess. We did a 60-day rollover and we're 52 days into it. What do we do?
Mm. Mhm.
Well, you panic, okay,
Right.
because
Right.
you've got to do something in a hurry or you're going to get taxed on it. So yes, you can, Samuel, you can take the money out of a regular, put it into a Roth through a 60-day cash out rollover, but you got to do it very carefully. And the custodian that you're dealing with has to accept it.
Right. A lot of things have to line up, and this is why we often say, "Don't try this on your own," right, Tom?
I know we call it, you're on your own is called the yo-yo plan,
Mhm.
and the do-it-yourselfers, I've said this before. I can fix I've got 5 kids, and when you've got 5 kids and their friends are over, you get holes in the wall, if you understand what I'm saying, into the sheetrock. And I can fix one. I can fix that thing. I can go get the stuff at Home Depot and I can put the putty on there and I can get the little spray and spackle it and paint over it. I mean, I can do it. And forever, as long as that hole is in the wall, it's a memorial to that hole because you can see exactly where I fixed it.
Mhm.
Okay. But I've got a guy named Mike who's got a company, and his company's named Just Like New. And guess what Mike comes in and does? He makes it just
Just
like
like
new.
new.
That's right.
Yep.
Because why? Because he's a professional. And there are
Mhm.
just some things I can do on my own, but it looks like I've done them on my own. And
Right.
I've not done them as well as a professional does things. When you're talking about your finances, when you're talking about your retirement, there are so many statistics that show, there's so many surveys that show working with a professional just saves you so many gotchas.
Yep.
Just so many times where you make a mistake and it's too late.
Well, and this next question is a perfect example of avoiding a costly mistake. A few weeks back, we did a show all about required minimum distributions, and we talked a lot about how the IRS can slap on that additional 25% penalty if you get that wrong. So this next question says, I've read that if I'm still working and reach age 73, I don't have to withdraw required minimum distributions from my 401k, but I do have to draw them from my IRAs. What if I have a simple IRA at my work? Do I have to withdraw from that while I'm still working?
Hey, you've got some information there and you've got a great question. You're absolutely right. Many people are still working in their 70s. And if you're working at a company that's got a 401k and you're contributing to that 401k, you turn 73, when's the normal year for you to take required minimum distributions. You do not have to take required minimum distributions out of your 401k until the year you stop work. I've got one client who's 77 years of age and he's still working, not because he has to, but because he wants to. And
Mhm.
he's contributing to his 401k and he's not having to take any required minimum distributions out of there. Guess what, though? We are taking required minimum distributions out of his IRA because, as the questioner said, you do have to take money out of an IRA. And unfortunately, don't kill the messenger. I am just simply the messenger. The simple IRA, if you take away the adjective, so to speak, of the simple, SIMPLE, all right, it is still an IRA. So you are required by IRS regulation to take money out of a simple IRA. If you're still working, still contributing, and you turn 73, you start taking RMDs that year. It's not like a 401k, it operates like an IRA.
So important to know those distinctions for sure. So thank you for those questions. And if you have a question that you want Tom to answer on the air, simply go to info@mosleywealthmanagement.com. That's info@MOSLEYwealthmanagement.com. Don't worry, we will always change the names to protect your privacy, but make sure you get your questions in and we'll be glad to have Tom answer them for you right here on the show. Well, Tom, I know you teased up at the beginning of the show needing to share about the IRS ruling on the Secure Act of 2019. Let's talk about that. This is huge.
Yeah, in July, just last month, from when we're taping this show, they came out finally with an IRS ruling to clarify the law that was passed in December of 2019 called the Secure Act. How's that for timeliness? Because that law forced everybody, like kids who inherit an IRA, a beneficiary IRA, and I'm talking to all of you who have an inherited IRA or a beneficiary IRA. The IRS has finally made clear a ruling that Congress did not make clear in the law, and so far the IRS had never clarified it. And to clarify it, they came out in July of 2024 with a 260-page ruling of regulations to clarify. I'm sure that 260-page regulation, Kristen, is going to have all of those pages of regulations are going to have some clarification that needs to be done with them. But the question was, you've got 10 years now to take the money out of an inherited IRA or a beneficiary IRA. Can I take it out early, late, or do I have to take out a required minimum distribution each of the 10 years in that period? The IRS has finally come out, and are you ready? Drum roll, okay? The IRS says, yes, you need to take a required minimum distribution every single year out of an inherited IRA or a beneficiary IRA. Well, here's the news, folks. It's been unclear up until now, but it is clear as mud right now, you might say, that you do have to take a required minimum distribution out of your inherited or beneficiary IRA. If you haven't been doing that, you need to start, because the IRS has said we might be lenient on penalties for a year or two, but they will eventually come down on penalties, and you do have to take a regular RMD out of an inherited and a beneficiary IRA.
And
really important.
This is beginning in 2025, right?
2025, that's when it starts. Not this year, but 2025. So
you need to plan ahead for it, for sure. Yeah.
Taxes are so important, and that's what we've been talking about in this whole show. Taxes are the single biggest thing that will keep you from your retirement dreams. If you've got $800,000 in a 401k, it's not all your money, and a lot of it is going to go to the government. How much? You need to find out. What's it going to impact you? You need to find out. What can I do with that money after I take it out for required minimum distributions? You need to know. You can't put that in a Roth. You need to know where it goes. You need to have a tax plan, and that's what Roth Conversions and working with somebody who knows the tax laws and stays up to date with them can do for you. Or you can continue to work with someone who says, we don't do that. Talk to your CPA.
Tom, thank you so much for sharing your wealth of wisdom and knowledge. And that's the reality. We don't want you to let taxes keep you from your retirement dreams. We know that a lot of this is new to you. It's not new to Tom and the team of Mosley Wealth Management. This is what they do for folks day in and day out, and they would love to help and serve you. So again, for no cost, no charge, no obligation, we invite you to pick up the phone and call 888-930-5609 to come in and receive your very own complimentary retirement blueprint. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to being back with you next time here on Right on the Money with Tom Mosley.
Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals through Mosley Wealth Management Incorporated. Mosley Wealth Management and Mosley Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership license number OB61811. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refers to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength, claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This content is intended for for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the needs of an individual situation. All hypothetical examples are provided for illustrative purposes only. They do not represent real-life scenarios. Mosley Insurance and Financial Services, nor its agents or representatives, may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any investment decisions. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Some of the information provided may be from one or more third parties, which we believe to be reliable sources, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mosley Insurance and Financial Services.